And now that we have our camera, we can go back inside our effects. Let's go back to our rock debris and let's take care of these for now. So I want to preview my terrain and my pieces, my rocks at the same time. So from here, I will drop this down into a null, and we will also use this null to render our terrain geometry. So I'll rename this to RNDR Geo, or actually let's just rename this to RNDR Ground. I will copy this node and let's go up a level. Let's create a geo container and we can start setting up some of these render nodes. So these will be the nodes that are going to be visible inside the renderer. So this is RNDR ground. Let's step inside, drop down an object merge and merge my terrain. Okay, so now I can go up. Let's go in our effects and let's preview our rocks. So let's also preview our terrain, so show all objects. And now we can judge the scale of these rocks. So I think maybe I want to make these rocks just a little bit smaller. Maybe a 15% smaller. Let's go to our attribute randomize, which sets the P scale. And maybe it's easier if I rename this to set P scale. And drop down the global scale to maybe 0.4. And I will recache this now, so save to disk. So now they are just a little bit smaller. From here I want to separate the pieces that we are going to simulate and the pieces that are just going to be rendered. So right here where we see we have the border of our simulated chunks, we can make a selection for these rocks here in the center, and these are the ones that we are going to import in our .NET. So from this node I will drop down and assemble, and let's pack all of these, and let's also change the output prefix here to rocks so we ensure that they have unique names. Let's create pack primitives, and from here I can simply drop down a group. Let's switch this to points. Let's enable keep in bounding regions and select bounding sphere, and I will just increase the size until we encapsulate most of these rocks that are on the surface of the simulated geometry. So just increase this all the way up. Let's see. Let's maybe preview our simulation to better judge how far this should extend, and maybe we still need to increase a little bit. Okay, so a value of roughly around 40 should be fine. So from here, if I drop down a split node, we can split this group. And now from this node, we have our, let's see, debris sim. And over to the right, we can have our debris render. Or maybe I should just recall this to debris static. So if I preview this, we have the rocks that are outside of the simulated area, which we are only going to be using to render. So I will grab this debris sim and let's Control C this node. Let's go to our .NET and let's go to the first frame, step inside, and here I will drop another RBD packed object. Let's point to our debris sim rocks, and I can just simply merge these together. So here are the rocks, and let's preview the output. For the rocks, I want to go to my bullet data tab, and I want to treat these as boxes. So I will just set the geometry representation to box. So if I go zoom in a little bit and show guide geometry, we can see that these are now all boxes, and this should optimize the simulation a little bit, and also it will make these rocks not spin uncontrollably, and they will settle a lot faster now. So we can turn this off. Let's go up a level. Let's go to my DOP import node, and because we set this object mask to include anything with RBD inside their name, this will also now import the rocks that we just imported in the simulation. So from here I can just simply recache this node and save to disk. So now if I go to my transform pieces, we should still have the same result. So it will only look for the same name that the pieces has, and it will link it with the name of its correspondent point from this simulation. And now the cool thing is that we can grab this debris sim geometry, and I will paste it here. Let's go ahead and create another object merge, and I will just paste this here, and I will grab both of these, hold down Alt, drag a wire, and then plug this merge in my transform pieces. Okay, and we have the high quality pieces and also our simulation points. So there is an error that's happening over here, which is that the rocks are responding to our simulated points, but the chunks are remaining the same. And this is because our debris, our rocks are still packed pieces. And all we have to do here is just to unpack these. Okay, so these are the rocks. And if I go back to my transform pieces, now everything will work as it should. So when you are dealing with this transform pieces node, make sure that all of your pieces have unique names and that all of them are either packed or unpacked. We can now also merge our base layer and also the rocks that are on the outside as well. Let's go and let's try to find our base layer. So here in my GeoInit, we should have our GeoBase. And we should grab the version that's not this packed one that we use for simulation. So let's drop down in null over here, and so this is the one that we are going to be used to rendering. Let's rename this to GeoBase render and copy this, bring this all the way over here, and I will duplicate this node and paste this here. So I can now merge these nodes, and I will actually just place this merge inside this other merge here. So this merge over here will be the geometry that's not moving, so the exterior base, and let's grab our other rocks as well. So debris static, copy this, and make another duplicate and paste this here, and place this inside the merge. Alright, and if we preview all of this together, we should have our completed simulation. So in Cam 1, there is a viewport error with the camera that's culling some of this geometry, but if I go outside of the camera, this is what we should be seeing actually. And for the sake of visualization, let's maybe go over here where we have our base render, and I will drop down a color node, and maybe I just want to change the color for this, and this won't affect the final render. It will just help a little bit to distinguish between these two parts of the terrain. So maybe I will just make this a little bit darker and use a value of maybe 0.4 or 0.5. Alright, so just to help visualize the terrain from the base, and let's create a flipbook from this. So this is the final look of the simulation, and let's say that I am happy with this result, and we can move forward to the next chapter now. Let's maybe, before we do that, let's actually just organize these nodes a little bit. So over here we have the transform pieces operation, so let's maybe grab all of these, Shift O, and make some room, grab a sticky note, and I'll just place this here, and maybe I'll just name this to render geo. And here let's grab all of these, Shift O, and this will be our rock debris. So this entire part will be responsible for the geometry of our terrain and rocks, and from over here we will start creating the other effects.